Have you ever stared at someone you used to know more than you have stared at your own face, and they just ignore you? As if you're a ghost? Yeah, that's what happened to me. And it wasn't some person. It was my best friend. The person who knew all the secrets, all the dreams, all the heartbreaks. The person I grew up with. And now, she's a stranger. Or maybe she was always like that, and I just never paid attention. It started on a perfectly typical Tuesday. The kind of Tuesday where you wouldn't anticipate anything new happening. The kind of Tuesday that's just going to become another Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then somehow Friday. My phone buzzed with a text I had been trying to avoid, but also secretly hoping for. It was from a friend I had grown up with since high school, and it was a photo. A photo of Chloe. My Chloe. Except, she wasn't my Chloe anymore. She was wearing a dress that was worth more than my car, and her smile was the kind you hear about in magazines, exactly in its place, just a bit too far away. The caption had spoken of a gala, a benefit for one big foundation or another. It was all blur, really, but this much was certain. She was with a celebrity. A celebrity 2 years before she'd had a poster of in her bedroom. The photograph made me feel like I was looking at a total stranger, but the memory of her was so sharp, that it felt like a phantom ache in a missing limb. If you absolutely need to know what happened, you have to go back. Way back. When we were 2 young children running totally out of control in a small town that felt like the entire wide world. Our town was one of those places where everyone knew each other, and the biggest thrill was to slip out at night to climb the dilapidated water tower. We all lived on the same street, a street so quiet you could hear the cicadas humming in the summer and the leaves crunching under your sneakers in the fall. My houses were a few doors from each other, and our backyards were separated by a flimsy chain-link fence that in our imaginations was a wall of a castle fortress, a barrier that we would have to travel over to rescue an imaginary kingdom. I remember first meeting her. I was 7 years old, she was 2. She was fresh off the bus, and her mother was having a struggle with a rebellious garden hose. Chloe perched on the front porch steps, knees to chest, having that lost expression on her face. I just walked over. With the gall only a 7-year-old can afford, I said, "Do you want to play?" She looked up, her eyes big and a little sad, and nodded once. That was it. No grand dialogue, no dramatic moment. Just a simple question and a simple answer, which was the start of a friendship which lasted close to 2 decades. Our childhood was a tapestry of shared moments. We built forts out of tattered blankets and pillows out of couch cushions, creating entire worlds in the small confines of a living room. We sped along on our bikes with uncontrolled abandon, our cries echoing down the block as we tried to see how fast we could make it to the end of the block. We hung out in her garage, a clutter of shattered tools and boxes, but to us, a clubhouse. We'd perch on a filthy workbench, listening to music on her dad's old radio and swapping secrets that felt like life and death confessions at the time. Chloe was a romantic. She perceived the world in more vivid colors than me. Even though I was content with the simple, little life we had, she would always refer to the someday. She'd look up at the aircraft flying by and say, "One day, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll be on one of those planes, and I'm going somewhere significant." Her goals weren't about being rich, at least not at that point. They were about being on her own. About seeing the world beyond our small hometown, beyond the suburban streets and friendly neighbors. And my desire was straightforward, to be there with her. We were a package deal. Chloe and me. I couldn't picture life without her as part of it. High school made us bond even more. The cringeworthy years, the first heartbreaks, the agonizing moments of social drama, we shared it all together. She was the one I'd call when I argued with my parents, and she'd just appear without speaking, with a container of ice cream and a movie that we'd seen 1,000 times before. I was the one who'd stay there and bawl with her about some guy who wouldn't even respond to her texts, with her hand in mine and telling her that he was an idiot and didn't deserve her. We had a silent, unbreakable understanding. We'd always take care of each other. Always. No exceptions. Our friendship wasn't about the big things, you know? It was the little things. The way she always left me the last piece of pizza even when she hadn't eaten. The way I could tell, just by the sound of her voice, whether or not she was actually happy or just pretending. We had a secret handshake, a tangled mess of finger snaps and wrist claps, something we came up with when we were 10 and still did, even our senior year of high school, simply for the point of laughter. It was our own secret language. It was our past, our shorthand for everything. Then college. That was when things started to lean. Not anything spectacular first, just a very slow, almost invisible incline. I stayed local. I won a scholarship to the state university, and I was working part-time to cover my texts and my small little one-bedroom apartment. I was living the college student life, you know? Instant noodles, study groups in the library at night, trying to stretch a $30 grocery trip for a week. Chloe, on the other hand, was accepted into a prestigious business school on the other coast. We were both excited for her. It was a significant thing, a scholarship that was almost too good to be true. Her family had a thriving small business that was starting to really succeed, and they were able to provide for her in a way that my family was unable to. And that was okay. We both were keeping to ourselves, and we promised each other that we would see each other and call nonstop. The first couple of months were great. We'd FaceTime for hours on end, me in my tiny dorm room and her in her much bigger, much nicer one. She'd tell me about her classes, the city, her new friends. I'd vent about my terrible job at the coffee shop and the cute philosophy class guy. We were still us. But then the calls started to get shorter. She was always busy. Always had something. I have to leave. I have a study group, or we're going to this thing tonight. I'll call you back later. The later never arrived. And then the small things started to change. She'd take to Facebook and upload pictures of vacations I had no idea she'd taken, a Miami weekend getaway, a Colorado ski vacation. Places that were galaxies away from our initial dreams of simply having a car to drive on over to the town down. Her clothes were not the same. Her haircut was not the same. She appeared polished. And when I'd question her about her new friends, the ones she was with all the time, she'd talk about them as if I were on the outside looking in. She'd tell me things like, "Oh, you wouldn't know them. They're in my program." Or, "It's a whole different world." It was as if she was speaking a new language that I wasn't familiar with. I started to feel it, that little seed of doubt. I'd text her a silly memory, a photo of us as kids at the local fair, and she'd just respond with a haha, so cute. No real engagement. No shared nostalgia. It was a polite dismissal. My gut told me something was wrong, but my heart refused to believe it. My friends would catch me saying, "Hey, have you heard from Chloe?" And I'd always respond, "Yeah, we talked the other day." But it wasn't true. We hadn't spoken in months. It was all my side, a series of texts that were ignored or met with a perfunctory, polite response. I always made excuses for her. She's busy. She's stressed. She's on a different schedule. It was easier to think up reasons for her retreat than to embrace the reality. She was changing, and I was not part of the change. I wished to be happy for her victory, and I was, but somehow the more successful she became, the less important I became in her life. I remember one specific incident, one that I should have been more aware of. I'd called her, so excited to tell her about a short story I'd won a small local writing competition with. It was a big deal to me. It was the first time that I felt my dream, the one I'd told her about in her dirt garage, was actually real. She picked up, and I started spewing, and she interrupted. "Great," I said, but her voice sounded flat. "Listen, I have to let you go. My new friend is coming. We're going to a rooftop bar." The phone dropped before I could even try to say goodbye. That was when I first felt painfully the bitter sting of it. The first time I let myself think about the possibility that her new life might be more meaningful than the one we had. My life moment was a few months ago. I was working a shift at the coffee place when I saw a headline being read off the TV screen up above the counter. It was a scoop on Chloe, and she was talking about a massive donation that her family's foundation had recently made. The article stated that she was to give a keynote speech at a huge charity gala in the city, just a few hours away. I burst with optimism. This was it. This was my chance to see her, to talk to her face to face, to figure out what was happening, to make her realize that I was still me. And that maybe, just maybe, she was still she. I bought a ticket. It cost exorbitantly, more than a week's wages, but I used my savings I had stockpiled for a new computer. It was worth it. It was like an investment in my friendship, in my own history. I searched my closet and selected the finest dress I had, a plain blue one that I had used to attend my cousin's wedding. It wasn't designer, but it was nice. I curled my hair, put on makeup, and I had a thrill of nerves and adrenaline. I was seeing her, the old her. When I got to the place, it was overwhelming. The lobby was marble all around and crystal chandeliers. It was all shiny and gleaming. There were people dressed in gorgeous gowns and flawlessly tailored tuxedos. I felt awkward, a little on the petite side, but I kept my head up. I scanned the room. my heart pounding in my chest. And then I saw her. She was surrounded by a small circle of individuals, her face aglow with a smile that radiated across the room. Her dress was a vibrant red, and it shone under the lights. She looked like a movie star. She was giggling, her head thrown back just like she used to, and I felt that warmth for a brief moment. She was still Chloe. My Chloe. I started walking towards her, forcing my way through the crowds of people. My hands were shaking a bit. I had a speech prepared in my head. I was going to squeeze her tight. I was going to tell her I missed her. I was going to ask her why she had been so cold. And I was going to make everything right again. I finally crept close enough. She was talking to a woman with a hip haircut and a man who looked like he could have graced the cover of a magazine. Her back was half turned from me. My throat went dry, but I braved it. "Chloe?" I said, my voice shaking a little. "Hey, I'm here." She turned. Our eyes met. And for one instant flash, I saw it. The flicker. The glint of knowing in her eyes. It was there, a spark of the old Chloe, the one who knew me. Her smile trembled for one beat, the corners of her mouth twitching the way I used to know so well, a tell she had when she was shocked. My heart leapt. She recognized me. She knew me. She was going to be so joyful. Then, however, the light did go out. It was like someone had thrown a switch. Her face went blank. Her eyes glazed over me, as if I were part of the furniture, a fuzzy background. She angled her head in the direction of the woman beside her and drew some soundless breath. The woman glanced over at me, a polite, almost pitiful smile on her face. And then Chloe faced me, a courtesy, vacant expression on her face. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice soft and icy, a voice I'd never heard. "Do I know you?" The words hit me like a slap. The din of the room, the clinking of glass, the hum of voices, it all just faded away. I was paralyzed, frozen, a statue among humanity. My brain was a fog. I couldn't talk. I couldn't catch my breath. "Chloe?" I whispered again, hoping, praying she'd laugh and say, "Oh my gosh, I was just messing around." But she didn't. She only smiled at me, that same polite, empty smile. Then she turned her back on me whole, going on talking as if I had never been there at all. The woman she was speaking with gave me another swift, apologetic glance, then vanished too, lost in the crowd. I stood there for what felt like an eternity. The shame burned, seared. It wasn't just that she had pretended not to know me. It was that I'd seen the flicker of recognition first. She'd looked at me, remembered who I was, and then, on purpose and deliberately, decided to pretend not to know me. I didn't lose it. I couldn't. All the fight was sucked out of me. I just changed. And I walked away. I strolled past the gleaming marble floors and updated people, and I was little girl all over again, looking for home in the blackness. I floated into an empty hallway and just leaned against the wall, legs as heavy as lead. The tears came, but they were not crying, snot-inducing tears. They were merely there, silent, searing, and humiliating. They trickled down my cheek, and I let them slide. I was only a girl in too dull a dress, a girl who did not belong in this sophisticated world. I had visited my best friend, and I had discovered a stranger instead. The drive home was a blur. I was numb. All I could do was replay the instant in my mind. "Do I know you?" The words still resounded in my ears, that taunting, heartless phrase. All our memories, all our secrets shared with her, all our laughter, all our tears I'd dried from her eyes, it was all a sham. Was our friendship a stepping stone to her? Had she used it and carelessly thrown it aside when it was no longer needed? The following days were a gloomy tempest of sadness. I did not wish to talk to anybody. I did not want to tell my friends what had occurred because the story sounded so senseless, so humiliating, that I could not make myself utter it. It was as if I was mourning a loss. The end of a friendship, the end of part of my history that I had held on to so desperately. I flipped through old pictures, and I caught myself staring at the little girl with the large eyes and the gap-toothed grin. That little girl, so happy and so innocent, had no idea what lay ahead for her. She had no sense that the girl who took her hand one day would eventually pretend that she never existed. I deleted all pictures of her and me on my phone. It was a violation of my own recollections, but it had to be done. Each time I caught sight of her face, the flawless, shiny face at the gala, it was a gut punch. I went online and unfollowed her, then I blocked her. It was not in anger. It was in self-preservation. I could not bear to see her new life develop. I could not see her laugh with her new friends, the ones who knew her, as she had erased me from memory. For so long, I had felt small. I believed that I had been a part of something that was ultimately insignificant. I questioned my own worth. If the individual who knew me better than anyone, my best friend, could so easily forget about me, what did that reveal about me? Was I that easy to forget? Was my life so insignificant that it could be so readily discarded? The questions bothered me, and for a while, they were about the only thing that felt real. But then, one night, I was sitting on my bed staring at the wall. My phone buzzed. It was a text from another friend, someone I'd met in college. "Hey, you okay? Don't know when I've heard from you last." It was a text message, plain as day, but it was like a small splash of light in the dark. I thought about her. I thought about the other people in my life who cared for me, who paid attention to me, who knew me for exactly who I was. My family, my friends, the people who would never, ever play dumb with me. And something clicked. It was subtle, not violent. Her rejection wasn't about me. It was all about her. Her new life, her new persona. It was not a castle on the hill. It was a thin, tawdry facade built upon a foundation of forgetting, of erasing the past because it did not fit her new narrative. She didn't want to be Chloe from our small town anymore. She didn't want to be the girl who rode a worn-out bicycle and built forts with blankets. And that was her choice. A painful choice, but a choice. Her money didn't just provide her with new things. It provided her with the freedom to be somebody else. And in giving up, she needed to let go of the things within her life that still reminded her of who she used to be. The memories, the little town, and me. But I did not need to let go of those memories. Our friendship was not a deception. The laughter, the tears, the happiness, all of those were not a deception. And it was part of me. It was a portion of the person that I had become. The hurting persists. It's a scar and no longer an open wound. It's a reminder of a time that was beautiful and a person that I loved very much. I've come to understand that I'm better off. I'm living a cluttered and honest life that's full of people who recognize me and love me for me, not for some prettied-up version or idealized image. And that, I've realized, is more valuable than all the wealth in the world. If you've ever been through something like that, I'd appreciate hearing your thoughts in the comments. And if this touched you even a little bit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn that bell on.